Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Welcome, one and all. It is time for the Books That Make You show, and I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. And today we're talking about books that make us thrive while we're working from home. Yeah, with so many of us working from home because of social distancing and all of the new challenges that we face, well, a lot of us are now working at home. And while that sounds fun and exciting, especially at first, right? It's like, oh, I gotta check some emails and do a few Zoom calls. This is gonna be easy, right? I think a lot of us have discovered that it's not so easy. But today, we're talking to an expert on working remotely. He is the CEO of DistantJob, remote placement agency, and also the author of Surviving Remote Work. He has over 2 decades of experience running 3 different companies from his computer, and he even wrote this book in the wake of COVID to help businesses and employees not only survive, but actually thrive in this new environment. And get this, he did it all with 2 toddlers running around the room around him. Sharon Koifman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Desiree. Thank you for having me. How fun! What a great intro. I mean, it made me feel warm and cozy inside. That's it.
Well, that's the thing, right? We're all warm and cozy inside. I love your fireplace and everything back there. That looks nice and cozy, actually.
This is my my wife doesn't like me to call it anymore the men cave, right? We're moving to a different era, but it's definitely a place that inspires me and makes me feel good about working. I also have an office 2 blocks away, so I have 2 areas that are completely different. This is more of the old school 150-year-old house office kind of space, and the other one is more modern. But it's the optimal working experience for me.
And I think it's great, too, that you actually have obviously run several companies remotely, and you wrote your book in the wake of COVID. And did you do a lot of the writing right in this space? Is this at home where the kids were running around you?
In this space, I started this book on a vacation. We literally booked a vacation to Dominican Republic. Literally, the day after I landed, they announced that you're not allowed anymore to go anywhere from Canada. So I was literally feeling like I'm in some island, and back home it's a zombie infested land, and I have to come back to it eventually. So it was it changed everything. I was sitting there, it's like, oh my God, I need to write a book. So I put the kids to sleep during the break time, and I started writing the book, and I wrote the first 10 pages on vacation.
Nice.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, sometimes we it sounds cliche, but we really do adapt to what's happening and we pivot really fast. And I think that's what savvy business leaders and CEOs, that's what they do. They respond to what's happening. And it's not like, oh no, zombie apocalypse, the world's coming to an end. It's what can I do now? How can I help people? And I think that's what's great about the book is because you're helping employees and employers as well to really thrive during this time. And one of your main points I want to flesh out a little bit, because you actually say that people are more productive when they're working from home. And I think a lot of bosses would disagree with that. Why do you feel people are more productive when working at home?
That is definitely the key. One of the biggest theme of the book is that you are more productive. And the reason why bosses around the world feel like they're not productive is because they created their entire processes and entire work culture around this 100-year-old idea that people need to go to the office to actually produce. But the reality, when this happened at factories, everybody had their specific job. They could do a repetition. They could make it. They could make the entire process going without stop. But now we pay people for thinking, for creating ideas, for being creative, for producing stuff. And the new working environment involves meetings and chit chat and hangout and social media. All those things distract us to a level that we produce on average 2 hours and 53 minutes in an 8-hour shift. That is the Science Bandit. So they did a lot of research. They showed that it takes us 25 minutes to come back into focus, work, and with all those distractions that happen every day, we almost produce nothing. Now at home, you actually get to you get to work in a more non-distracting environment, and you get to have your optimal working environment. You don't need to waste time traveling. You don't need to have your project cut in the middle because you have to go home. You don't when you have less sick days, because even if you're sick, there's so much you can sleep. Eventually you need to keep yourself busy, and it goes so far more and more into all these advantages that come with just sitting at home and working.
Yeah. I mean, and not to mention, you're not commuting. You save that time. And whether that time you saved commuting goes to work or to play, I agree. If you're creative and if you're having fun, if you're in a good, place, I mean, physically as well as mentally, then you just produce more, don't you?
You definitely produce more. And like I was saying, in terms of the commuting, it's not just the hour to 2 hours that you save every day. It is the fact that you're looking at your watch at about approximately 5 o'clock and say, oh my God, I need to get home. There's going to be traffic. I can't finish this project. And going back to the project the next day is so unproductive, right? So this is added to the commute challenge.
Exactly. Now, what about the distractions that we do have? Because let's face it, I mean, you wrote this book, you're a stay-at-home dad while you were writing this and the kids are running around, but the distractions can be a lot too, especially if the kids are at home doing schoolwork and you're there, your spouse is there. How do you recommend that people deal with those distractions?
Those distractions are huge. They're a big challenge. Only during COVID area, hopefully that kids go back to school and everything normal. That this was a new learning experience. A lot of time I've been asked, how is this different than what you would expected before you wrote the book? And I said, big change. I have kids hanging out with me. The moment that I could, I got help. Paid help. I don't think that people are doing the math correctly by not realizing how important it is to have somebody helping you, even if it costs a certain amount of money. Because unfortunately, during this time, you can't get your parents. You can't get your parents. You can't get your uncle or your family member to come. So you need to invest in paid help temporarily. But also, there's a whole bunch of technologies out there to keep the kids learning and educated. I've learned all these new great apps that are out there to put on the screen just to get my kids busy. But this is also an important message. Even through this tough time, if you manage to get multiple hours of productive work. So even if you need to do halfsies with your wife and you do 4 hours and she does 4 hours, you still can produce more than you usually produce in an office, as long as everybody understands the rules. Nobody sits there and it says, it's like, honey, where's my jeans? Right? No, you're giving me 4 hours of undistracted work and you will produce more. But that is the exception of COVID kids not going to school, which at least here in Montreal, it's no longer an issue.
Now, one of the things that I thought was so amazing, the very first time that you and I talked during a Zoom, similar type of a conversation, your daughters, they came rushing in and they were climbing on you and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's okay. Are you finding that people are just more accepting? Like, we understand if kids come in or the dog's in the background barking or something's going on, it just seems like people have relaxed about that. And that, the taboos, oh, that's not professional. It's fine now. It's like we've become more understanding.
I'm trying so hard to change that taboo. In my office, the rules are that everybody's chill. If there's a kid making noise, I would like to meet the kid. If there's a pet, let's hang out. Come. So I'm trying to do the reverse. I'm trying to make everybody feel really comfortable with the concept that this is not a big deal. I also start carrying the attitude that I don't care. So since we met, I just don't care anymore. Unless it's like the biggest, fanciest, craziest client, I don't care. I run a decent sized company. I'm doing well. I don't need people to tell me that my daughter coming into my room is the most evil thing in the world. I'm a proud daddy. I like my kids. So I like when they come, and it entertains me. And it was most entertaining that I actually had an interview, and my daughter ran in, and I was really embarrassed, which I'm not anymore. She came in, she was dressed in like the cutest thing. She was like made for video. And the interviewer was like, oh, that is so cute, and started interviewing my kid. And this is it. And I've seen my kids running into serious meetings also, and all I get in the back is how cute they are. Now, I guess I'm fortunate. My little kids they're adorable. I don't know how it happens when a 15-year-old runs into your room. Maybe it's not as cool anymore.
Right.
Yeah, but for now, nobody seems to mind it too much.
I love that. You are very fortunate that you have cute children.
Oh, I guess there's a huge benefit to it. Yes.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit, because you've been doing this for a long time. So you're bringing many years of experience to writing this book. And right now you're running the agency, DistantJob. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, so before that I ran a web hosting company. The servers were in New Jersey. The employees were in India. This is actually how I learned everything about the outsourcing world and the offshore and the remote world. I've learned so much that does not work, because when you're a real estate company and you need a web design, I was the perfect supply for you. I was kind of a mom and shop solution, but sometimes I would get software companies outsourcing to me because they wanted a more affordable solution. And for me, that was somewhat of a business sin. They were losing their processes. They were losing their culture just to get a cheap labor working with a third party who does not specialize in what they do. And then when I sold that company to a company here in Toronto called Stopia, I decided that I need to focus on getting people, again, in that offshore international world, but focus, career-driven, that want to integrate part of the processes and the culture of the company. And this is why I started DistantJob. DistantJob is not about the old school offshore outsourcing model. It is a recruitment agency that our focus is to find the best and the smartest talent, hopefully in a great value, and they become part of the company's operation. And then I teach them, then I give them some love and how to manage this remote individual. And of course, a lot of the teaching and a lot of consulting that I did throughout the years happened to get into this book.
Oh, and I love that. I used to work at an advertising agency, so I know all too well about outsourcing. Mm-hmm. And you're right. The difference is it's fine to hire a freelancer or a company for a small project, maybe a website project like you were doing. But when it comes to people that are going to be the heart and soul of your company, that's where the culture comes in. So can you talk a little bit about the culture and how companies, how bosses, businesses can keep the company culture alive and thriving during these times?
So culture is a funny thing, and because a lot of people like to use that buzzword, but they don't really understand, because there is not a clear definition of what culture is. Culture is like, hey, let's have fun. You know, when you look at Google, you see them drinking beer, happy hour, playing pool, sitting on those funny bean seats, or doing whatever they want, and something they're very productive. But nobody actually explains what is culture. And I spend I spent like 6 months researching and trying to find the simplest definition for culture in order for people to be able to implement better. And for me, culture means connection to the company, connection to each other, and even not as important, connection to the client, right? So every activity that you do, every effort that you implement with your people and your company is not just for randomly to have fun and to seem cool. You are trying to create connection. And when you realize that this is the goal, and you realize that I am aiming not to make the biggest party in the world, I'm aiming to have a social activity that will get people to be connected, suddenly you realize that what you did in the office is not necessary. So for a long time, I was trying to replicate the office experience by having this happy hour. We put everybody on Zoom. It was cool. You see 20, 30 people on Zoom, everybody. You don't have to drink. You can have a coffee. Everybody had to drink, but you don't have to drink alcohol. So because I don't want to be promoting alcoholism, so everybody would bring their scotch, their beer, their coffee, their this, and we would hang out. And very quickly, I realized that this is not the most effective way of actually achieving culture. So with remote, I was able to evolve a little bit. And what I did was trying to get people connected one by one. So on Slack right now, there's an app called Donut, and it randomly picks people, and they get to meet each other on an intimate level. And oh boy, is that a real connection? And yes, I still have drinks, but I have drinks at 2-3 people at the same time. I no longer have the big drinks. That is really deep connection. I get to understand people on a different level, but it is about the connection. Once you understand that, you'll be able to discover how to do culture remotely.
And another thing too is there are some people that love those big Zoom meetings and they can hang out and they can do that. But there's a big difference between the introverts and the extroverts. Sometimes the introverts on the team, that's just as stressful if you try to shove them into the middle of a real party. That's not their thing. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between extroverts and introverts in the remote workplace?
Well, so first of all, COVID has brought on something very interesting for companies. Realizing that introverts matter. And you're talking to the cream of the crop of extrovert, right? I don't know anything about it. No, I'm very shy. You can see I'm a little, but it's really interesting because in the past 2-3 years, even I did not notice the introverts and how much I should invest in people, because in an office environment, in a North American office environment, because it's not the same thing in Asia, but in a North American office environment, the person who is the loudest, who has the most opinion, who interacts and hangs out, gets the promotion. And here you realize that you have this incredible talent that is out there that finally have the time to shine. I consider COVID time the time of the introverts. They should make a movie about this, right? The time of the introvert. It's like it's the sequel to the nerd movie. What was it called?
Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds. So the double revenge of the introverts. But you're starting to see incredible production coming from them when you don't bug them, when you see their value, when you give them this superpower of, introverts by definition are people that generate energy by being by themselves. And here we go. You get to be by themselves and suddenly they become superheroes. The extroverts, so first, when it comes to introverts, pay attention not to distract them. Pay attention to let them use their superpower. And you might get some incredible production because by definition, introverts are more productive than extroverts. By the way, that research shows that. So these are pure talent. This is the guys that are horrible in your interviews, don't interact always, that are always sit in the corner of the office. Those could be your future superstars, especially in the tech field that I'm very involved in. Oh my God, you have an opportunity to kick some butt with this individual and let them create let them produce an incredible amount. Now the extroverts are still awesome. I hope so. At least I'm the boss, so nobody's allowed to tell me otherwise. But extroverts need to rethink a little bit of strategy, because you're getting to, with remote, you're getting a lot of time. You're getting still to work in the funnest, most optimal working environment. Look here, I got a stand-up table. I got cool rooms. I'm having a lot more fun with stuff that I would never feel comfortable putting in an office. Right, I have microphones and and speakers and 2 screens and a virtual reality goggle, which I now start working out in virtual. But we're not going to get into that in a second. There's so much benefit, but still, an extrovert needs to socialize. And now you have a new requirement, and you need to treat it with respect, because extroverts can go into depression if they're not getting this stimulation. So the message behind all this is that an extrovert needs to book his social activities the same way that he or she books his business meetings. This is very, very important. Right? You actually need to look at your calendar and say, I got a meeting with this supplier and this client and this vendor, and you need to and I have to book a meeting with my buddy George. This has to be in your calendar. It's a requirement. And if you forget to do that, it will affect your mental health, and you're not going to be as productive.
That's amazing advice. And let's talk about the target audience for your book, because I feel obviously employees, anybody working from home, and maybe even teachers or people that are adapting to just doing more things online can use it too. But really, this book is a guide for the employers, right? The bosses to use. And
yes.
It also is a great gift idea out there for the employees that want to get something for their bosses, because that way it can help you too, as far as giving them a guide so that they can manage all of these different things with remote working.
You can take it in 2 ways. Or you give that book as a present to your boss, or you can give it to yourself and learn everything in it, and eventually become the boss. If you implement the tools, that's why I really recommend any manager to read both the management and the remote worker chapter, and vice versa, because a remote worker can actually learn these tools and outshine everybody. When a boss look at this, most bosses are incredibly nervous about this remote experience. It is a major transition for everybody. For a long time, people have the misconception that in order to get production out of your employees, you need to be in the office. People are not ready for change. And suddenly you have this employee that understands this, that gets all the technologies, that understand everything that has to do with remote. And for many bosses, this employee will be a breath of fresh air, and it is almost a guaranteed promotion. So I want employees to think about it in that way, because here's your opportunity to rock it and to look awesome, doing pretty much the same thing that you're doing, just with better techniques involved, and teach the bosses. And the bosses are gonna go, oh my God, how do you know all this? Right. Please don't keep my book a secret. Right. But if you do, it's not a bad strategy. Right. Or you can say after, I rock it because I learned it from surviving remote work.
Exactly. And you're touching, because we have learned, a lot of people and companies have just learned, and I think you and I are on the same page. We knew this all along, but they just caught up. They realized, oh, we can run a business remotely. People can move anywhere in the world they want to, as long as they have access to the internet. People can start a new business. They can follow that entrepreneurial spirit that's driving them. It's almost like this is opening up like a whole new world to people that are smart enough to tap into it.
Look, I have employees in dozens of different countries, and most of them are in separate country. Most of them are not working together, and I wouldn't change it for the world. The ability to go international, not to be stuck in that same pool of talent that everybody competes over, to find better fit people because you have this massive pool of talent, and to let them work from home, that they're happier and more independent and more productive. People are missing. They're really missing on something special here. And COVID forced people into it, but people are coming with the wrong attitude. So because there's a lot of people thinking, how do I go back, right? How do I go back to the previous experience? Or how do I replicate exactly the experience? And they're missing something special. They're missing a huge opportunity to make a company that is significantly more productive.
Another thing in surviving remote work that you do that I really love, and I'll ask you, you can pick what you want to talk about, because you talk about different software platforms that people can use. You talk about security. You talk about so many tips and tricks and things. Is there one thing, one trick or a tip that you want to share with everybody?
One trick is that this is the tough question. I usually put the most emphasis on mental health, right? I actually believe that the change from the office to the remote work is not such a big deal, right? You implement few technologies, you make sure that the process is as fluent as possible. You get people the right technology, so you don't that you feel as if the person in front of you. But where the big difference is the mental health, is the people that feeling lonelier, more disconnected. They're not getting their social experience because nobody has taught them how to book the social experience, as if it's business meetings. So it's really up to the management to teach people how to feel productive, how to feel empowered in a remote environment. And that starts with actually getting to know them on a more intimate level. That's starting with actually being their buddies. They talk about, spend the first Monday meeting, not about what you, when you work with Agile and Scrum, the first meeting of the week is all about what are we going to do this week? I personally feel that you should start the first 20 minutes or half an hour talking, how was your weekend? Right? Get on the intimate level. Get excited. Your people are going to be more productive. They as much, I do. The research still show that remote people are happier and more independent, but it could lead to depression and feeling lonely. And you just as a manager in a remote environment, it's the mental health. You become a therapist a little bit, because as long as you can keep people happy, you will get more production. So that's it. Mental health matters in this.
It absolutely does. Great advice. Can you tell people where they can go to find your book, find out more about you, social media? Where can people track you down?
Okay, well, the biggest you track me down. You track me down on Twitter a lot, on LinkedIn. You can find DistantJob. We talk a lot under the company banner. Maybe we should start talking about under more of just the book banner, but the company banner. DistantJob.com has an incredible blog with a lot of advice. Of course, look for my book in Amazon, Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, Surviving Remote Work. We have both a very affordable digital version and a less affordable and normal regular book cover. Please buy it. I think you're going to learn so much and you're going to feel good. This is important. You're going to feel good about working remotely.
Absolutely. Sharon Koifman, thank you so much for joining us today on the Books That Make You show. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
It was. And thank you, everybody, for being here, too. Make sure you grab Surviving Remote Work. It really is a book. It's for everybody. Anybody who's working, learning, studying, guiding other people at home right now remotely. This is the book for you. So thank you for joining us here today on the Books That Make You show. And you can find out more about us. The website is booksthatmakeyou.com. We're also on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. We'll send you all sorts of bookish goodies and news and contests, giveaways, and all sorts of fun stuff. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.